Hi everybody, welcome to Dandelion Cottage and Watercolor Wednesday. I'm Leslie Watkins, and today I have a beautiful bouquet from the garden, and it has some feverfew. Those are these beautiful little daisy-like flowers, and they're a plant that self-seeds readily throughout the garden and provides wonderful cut flower material. And then I've also got some of the sprays of the alchemia. So this is also known as mollis, and it's this beautiful chartreuse color which looks so good with so many other color combinations. Excuse me. And then I've got these very beautiful deep yellow, orangish kind of, what are they called? They're in the Helboreus. No, they're in the Helianthus family. And I don't remember the name of this particular cultivar, but I've got a lot of these, and they grow quite tall and they make wonderful cut flowers. So this is a really quick and easy, simple bouquet that you can make with some very easy plants. And today I thought what I would do would be to show you how I do an all-over watercolor pattern, which I'm going to use a piece of the Fluid 100 paper for. This is 5 by 7 inch 140 pound watercolor paper, so it's nice and thick. And what I can do is I can paint the entire surface, and then I can cut it up into pieces. So there'd be enough pieces here, say, for 4 cards or box tops, depending on how big or how small your project was. And also I could use any leftover bits for die cutting, and it would be very pretty. So this is going to be a kind of a quick video today. I'm going to be using watercolors. I'm using red, yellow, and blue. So I've got my palette all set to go here. I've got a couple of brushes. So I've got a larger brush and a smaller brush. And then off to the side, I have 2 water containers. So one is for cleaning my brushes, dirty water, and the other one is for fresh water for mixing my paints. I also have a slightly damp sponge to the side that I can use to blot my brush on as I'm working. So let me just double check my settings and make sure that you can see and hear me. In the meantime, please make sure that you are subscribed to Dandelion, I should say notes from Dandelion Cottage. That is my email list, and I have got so much going on this summer, and I don't want you to miss anything. I also have some specials in there that are time limited. So this is the last chance you're going to have to subscribe to notes from Dandelion Cottage to get the schedule for the summer. I will continue to send out announcements and reminders, but this issue coming out next is going to have everything in there. So it's something that you're going to want to have. It'll be for both live events as well as online events. So there's going to be a lot in there. So please subscribe to notes from Dandelion Cottage, and you can do that on my website at dandelioncottagedesign.com, or at the top of my Facebook page there is a button. It says sign up, and if you're watching on YouTube, I will post it in the description below after I do the video. So I'm checking to make sure that I'm visible. And it looks like I am, and I see Kelly. Good morning, Kelly. Thank you for letting me know that you can see and hear me. I appreciate that. All right, so I'm off the camera. I'm just going to take my paper. I'm going to give it a slight spritzing with my spritzer. And what this is going to do, it's just going to help the paper to be a little bit damp. And you can see, I think you can see how shiny and wet that is. All right, so that because the paper is watercolor paper and because it's thick, it's going to absorb a lot of that moisture. It's going to take it right down into the fibers. And I do actually have a paper towel. I can take off some of that excess. There we go. And I'm going to start with my bigger brush. Now, as I mentioned, I'm just going to do a kind of a loose, all over kind of a design. So basically it's to capture some of these colors. And I'm going to begin with my yellow. Add a drop of red to that to deepen it up. And I'm just using my 3 primary colors, yellow, red, and blue, because with a good yellow, red, and blue, you'll be able to mix all the colors of the rainbow. So you don't need to start out with a lot of different colors. You can add all your colors as you go. Now I'm going to indicate the shape of these flowers. So I'm using the tip of my brush to describe the shape of the petals. All right, so you can just make a little star shape just like that. Then of course these beautiful little feverfew flowers have their centers, and for those I'm going to add a touch more yellow because they're just a tiny bit different from the color of the helianthus. So I'm just going to put some dots just to indicate areas where those feverfew may be. And as I do this, I'm kind of keeping in the back of my mind the overall design. So I'm going to move my larger flowers around the surface, and I can vary the shapes and the sizes. So maybe I would have one in profile, something like that. And I will zoom you in just a moment so that you can see better what I'm doing. But keeping it very simple, and I'm drawing with the brush. So I'm just making these little petal shapes going in different directions. And now what I want to do is take my yellow and I'm going to mix it with some blue, and but more yellow this time than blue. So I have this kind of chartreuse bright yellow green, and I'm just going to kind of put some splashes of that around. Okay, and I want to stay away from my little feverfew flowers, because I'm going to use some of these greens to describe the shapes of those flowers. So I'm just kind of going around in a vague kind of a shape, and I'm leaving plenty of white of the paper showing. I'm not trying to finish the I want to leave room for options. So if I want to add something, or if I change my mind, or whatever the case may be, I just want to keep it sketchy, loose, and free for now. And already I think you can see how pretty these colors are together. All right, now I'm going to go back to my yellow mixture because I have to fill in some of this area over here with my feverfew flowers. So at this point, it's really a collection of strokes. So even if you're just practicing your brush strokes, this is a great way to do it, because you can make these little dots for the flower centers. Then you can use the shape of your brush to create the various petal shapes, and then of course I have those sort of splotchy areas. And now I'm just adding a little bit of darker tone on the center of my big flowers. I think I'll put another one over here. And this, by the way, can be done not only with the watercolor paints, but of course your reinkers or your water-based inks. And by that I'm talking about the little liquid ink that we use to replenish stamp pads. So long as it's water-based, you want to be careful. So you don't want what's usually called a pigment ink, because sometimes those can have other materials in them, and they're not going to work the way watercolors do. But the water-based inks work perfectly, and you can have a lot of fun with those, because they will coordinate with your cardstock and your ribbons and all the other things that you're using for your project. All right, so I'm just continuing to fill in some of these areas, remembering to keep the white petals around my little feverfew flowers. And you can see, I think you can see at this point, it really starts to develop. And also what's happening is that the spritzing that I did has had a chance now to make its way into the core of the paper, and so the paper is responding very nicely to the way I'm applying the paint on the surface. Okay, so I think I'm going to zoom you in so you can get a better look. Move this out of the way a little bit. There we go. And, oh, good morning, Cheryl. She loves the colors. Well, you know, there's so much going on in the garden right now. It really is a paradise out there, I have to say. It is beautiful. And, you know, right now we still have plenty of moisture, so everything is extremely lush and beautiful, but we have the dry season coming up, and things will change. But right now it is really pretty. What I'm doing now is I'm taking my red and my yellow and my blue, and I'm making a slightly darker green, and I'm just gonna drop a little darker tone in my chartreuse, not too much, just a little bit, to give it a little more dimension, a little more indication of some of the variation in the greens and the shadow tones. This is starting to dry a little bit over here, so I'm just going to add a touch more water, keep that color moving. All right, and then now I'm going to go back to my sunflowers, the helianthus, and this time I'm using a more of an orange color. I'm going to go back into those centers And keep indicating that beautiful button in the center of the flowers. And I can add a little more detail to these petals. Now at this point, I'm going to finish up with my larger brush, and I'm going to start using my smaller brush so I can get a little more detail in my subjects here. There we go. The helianthus flowers are still a little damp here, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to use my small brush and the chartreuse color. So this is chartreuse, is the yellower green, and I'm going to start to pick out here and there some of the petals around the feverfew. Now I'm not going to try to do each and every one because that would be boring. I want to leave a little bit to the imagination of the viewer. So, but here and there I can select a few petals just to capture the characteristic of the particular flower. And I'm connecting those strokes with the green splotches that I already have down there, so that it reads well. The idea holds together. Okay, so I can zoom you in a little bit closer so you can see what I'm talking about. And I think you can see how these flowers really start to take shape with just a couple of little strokes. So you do not need to have any, this painting loose like this does not require a lot of drawing skills or practice, but it does allow you to practice with your painting. And the more you practice, the better you're going to get. So what I recommend to my students is to have if you have a little spot that is designated just for painting, hopefully you have a place that maybe has a north light window. That would be ideal. But some kind of good lighting, quiet place, a little bit out of the way, where you can go and just keep your supplies handy, maybe in the drawer of a desk, or maybe you can leave them out all the time so that it's easy for you to take a little break from your day and do some quick practice. Even if you're not even looking at flowers or have something in mind, you can just play with your color mixtures. You can practice your strokes, doodle, and you'd be surprised. A lot of those little practice pieces make wonderful backgrounds for card fronts. So you can use your practice to make cards for people and send them to them, and I'm sure they will be delighted. Right, so it's starting to look like an early summer bouquet here. I almost picked some of the Nepeta, which is a beautiful sort of a lavender color. It looks a lot like lavender, in fact. And that would be a nice addition to this color scheme or palette. Okay, so there's that, and now I think it should be dry enough that I can start to add a little more detail to those sunflowers. So again, I'm going to go back into my orange, make it a tiny bit darker, and let's see if I can, oh, it's still pretty wet, but that's okay. I can take advantage of the extra moisture to have these beautiful soft edges. And I'm just going to go ahead, because this is going to dry a little bit lighter than the way it appears, so I'm going to go ahead and add more paint, a little bit darker, and just really let that blend. Alright, so that's about as dark as I would want to go on that, but I can add just a few more touches of the darker green where my leaves are. So the leaves for the helianthus are shaped kind of like that. So I can add a few of those here and there. They have some toothy kind of edges. And I can always go back. I can always put this aside, let it dry completely, excuse me, and then go back and add in more details later if I choose to. Or leave it just as is. It's up to you. Whatever, you know, make sure that you take the time to put down the brush and walk away from your artwork every so often, so that you can take a look at it from a distance and decide if it's done, or if you want to add a few more things. And it, you know, you can go take a little break, come back an hour or two or a day later, and make any little changes that you'd like. I'm just looking for places to add this darker green. Some areas of the paper have dried faster than others, and I can use that to my advantage. Okay, so that was a lot of fun. It only took a few minutes. I've got a great start going here, and I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it aside, and I will come back in about half an hour or so, and I'll be able to put a little more detail into the center of these flowers. So let me show you. So you see all that texture that's happening in the center of this flower? I want to capture some of that. So I have to let the paper dry a little bit before I can do that. Also, if you notice on the feverfew, they've got this really cute little dimple in the center. So that would be a nice detail to add. So I will, I'll use the finished picture in the thumbnail so that you can see how it looks when it's all done. And then maybe tomorrow I'll show you how you could use it in a paper crafting project. So thank you so much for joining me today. I'm really glad to share this with you and hopefully inspire you to get out into the garden and paint from the beautiful flowers that you have around you. And I'll be back tomorrow at 12 noon with Paper Crafting Thursday. Please be sure to sign up for notes from Dandelion Cottage, because this is going to be a very special issue coming out. There will be lots of information, and there will be a chance to have some early bird specials, and to be able to get prepared for both in-person and online opportunities. So stay well, stay happy, stay creative, and I will see you next time.